There comes a moment in life when you feel like screaming, when the weight of the world sits so heavy on your shoulders that you just want to unload it all on someone. You want someone to listen, to understand, to tell you that everything will be okay. But let me tell you something: most people don't care. And the few that do can't help you. Your problems, they are yours alone to solve. And the moment you start sharing them with everyone, you weaken your power. You shift from being a warrior to a victim. You let the world see your struggles, your doubts, your weaknesses, and believe me, the world is not as kind as you think. Look around you. People are too caught up in their own lives to carry your burdens. And those who do listen, they are either entertained by your struggles or secretly believe that they are not the ones suffering. Some might even use your vulnerability against you. So what do? Do you suffer in silence? No, you transform that pain into power. There is a silent truth that every successful person understands: pain is something you must endure alone. Life is not designed to be easy, nor is it meant to be fair. Everyone has problems, everyone faces struggles, and yet not everyone talks about them. The reason is simple: sharing your struggles with the world does not fix them. It does not make the pain go away, nor does it bring solutions. Instead, it makes you dependent on external validation, hoping that someone will understand, that someone will care, that someone will magically make everything better. But the harsh reality is that most people do not care, and even those who do cannot solve your problems for you. People are caught up in their own lives, their own struggles, and their own battles. When you share your problems, you are merely adding to the weight they are already carrying. Some may offer a few words of encouragement. Some may sympathize, but at the end of the day, they will move on while you are still left with the same problems. Worse yet, there are those who secretly enjoy hearing about your struggles, not because they care, but because it makes them feel better about their own situation. Some people may even use your pain against you, seeing your vulnerability as a weakness to exploit. When you constantly tell people about your problems, you unknowingly shift from being a warrior to a victim. You allow your circumstances to define you rather than taking control of them. You begin to seek comfort in pity rather than strength and resilience. The more you talk about your struggles, the more real they become in your mind. You reinforce your problems instead of finding solutions. You start believing that your pain is bigger than you, that your struggles are insurmountable, and that you are incapable of overcoming them alone. This is a dangerous mindset because it keeps you trapped in a cycle of negativity and dependency. The most powerful individuals in history, the ones who have truly made an impact, did not waste time complaining. They did not go around seeking sympathy or broadcasting their struggles. They faced their problems head-on, in silence, with an unbreakable mindset. They understood that talking about their pain would not change their situation, only action would. They endured their battles in private, using their hardships as fuel to push forward. Pain is a personal journey. It is a test of endurance, patience, and strength. When you suffer in silence, you cultivate resilience. You teach yourself how to navigate difficulties without relying on others. You develop an unshakable mindset that allows you to handle life's challenges with grace and power. Instead of wasting time explaining your struggles, you use that time to find solutions. Instead of complaining about what went wrong, you focus on what you can do next. This shift in perspective is what separates the strong from the weak, the successful from the defeated. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow. Every hardship is a lesson in disguise. But that lesson is only valuable if you take responsibility for it. If you spend all your time telling others about your problems, you miss the chance to learn from them. You miss the opportunity to build the kind of strength that only comes from facing adversity. There is a reason why some people rise above their circumstances while others remain stuck. It all comes down to mindset. Those who conquer life do not waste energy explaining their pain. They use that energy to overcome it. When you keep your struggles to yourself, you become unpredictable. People do not know what you are going through, and that gives you power. They only see your strength, not your suffering. They see your determination, not your doubts. This creates an aura of confidence and self-sufficiency that commands respect. It sends a message to the world that no matter what happens, you will find a way through it. The moment you stop telling people about your problems is the moment you take full ownership of your life. You become the master of your emotions, the controller of your destiny. Instead of being at the mercy of external opinions, you develop an inner strength that cannot be shaken. And that, more than anything, is what will set you apart in life. Life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. Challenges appear out of nowhere, setbacks disrupt your plans, and moments of despair make you question everything. In these times, it is easy to believe that suffering is a punishment or an unfortunate coincidence. But what if the very problems you face are not here to break you, but to teach you something valuable? What if every struggle, every disappointment, and every obstacle is a lesson in disguise, waiting for you to uncover its wisdom? Pain has a purpose. It is not meaningless, nor is it unfair. It exists to shape you, to refine you, to push you beyond the limits of what you thought was possible. Every hardship carries a lesson, but most people miss it because they are too busy complaining, too focused on their suffering, too distracted by the discomfort to recognize the opportunity hidden within it. The truth is, pain is a far greater teacher than comfort will ever be. Comfort keeps you stagnant, while pain forces you to grow. When life is easy, you have no reason to change, no urgency to improve, no motivation to evolve. But when life challenges you, when it pushes you to your breaking point, that is when you are given a choice: remain the same or become something greater. Think about the moments in your life when you truly grew as a person. Were they moments of ease, or were they moments of struggle? Growth never happens when things are simple. Strength is not built in times of peace. The greatest transformations come from the hardest battles, the times when you wanted to quit but didn't. The times when you were knocked down but got back up. The times when you thought you had reached your limit, yet somehow you kept going. That is where growth happens. That is where resilience is born. Pain forces you to look within. When everything is going well, it is easy to distract yourself, to ignore your weaknesses, to avoid the deep work of self-improvement. But when life becomes difficult, when you are faced with hardship, you are forced to confront the parts of yourself that need to change. Struggles expose what is weak so that it can be made strong. They reveal the gaps in your character, the areas where you need to improve, the beliefs that are holding you back. Every hardship is an opportunity to become a better version of yourself, to develop discipline, patience, and wisdom. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who have had an easy life. They are the ones who have faced unimaginable pain and still refuse to be defeated by it. They did not let their struggles define them. They used their struggles to build themselves into something greater. They took every hardship as a lesson, every failure as a stepping stone, every setback as preparation for something bigger. They understood that life was not happening to them, it was happening for them. Every challenge was not an obstacle, but an opportunity. There is a reason why some people break under pressure while others thrive. It all comes down to perspective. When problems arise, some people see them as unfair, as reasons to give up. Others see them as training, as an invitation to become stronger. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not the presence or absence of hardship, it is how they choose to respond to it. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. You can choose to see your struggles as curses or as gifts. You can choose to let them weaken you or let them strengthen you. The most important thing to understand is that pain is temporary, but the lessons it teaches are permanent. The suffering you endure today will pass, but the strength you gain from it will stay with you forever. Every challenge you overcome makes you more prepared for the next one. Every lesson you learn makes you wiser, more capable, more resilient. And with every hardship you face, you are being shaped into the person you are meant to become. What you focus on, you give power to. Every thought, every emotion, every word you speak directs energy toward a certain outcome. If you constantly talk about your problems, if you dwell on what is wrong, you amplify the struggle. You make your problems seem bigger than they are, more impossible to overcome, more inescapable. But if you shift your focus towards solutions, if you concentrate on what you can control, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop feeding negativity and start feeding progress. The mind is like a magnifying glass. Whatever you point at, it grows larger. If you focus on pain, the pain intensifies. If you focus on fear, the fear takes over. If you focus on failure, you become paralyzed by it. But if you focus on action, on growth, on resilience, those things become stronger instead. This is why successful people do not waste energy on problems. They invest energy in solutions. They understand that their thoughts and words shape their reality. They refuse to reinforce weakness by dwelling on obstacles. Instead, they focus on overcoming them. Many people fall into the trap of believing that talking about their struggles will somehow fix them. They think that if they share their burdens enough times, if they repeat their complaints to enough people, the problem will disappear. But the opposite is true. The more you talk about what is wrong, the more real it becomes in your mind. It starts to feel permanent, like a part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as a person who is struggling rather than a person who is overcoming. And the more you identify with your problems, the harder they become to solve. Instead of constantly discussing difficulties, shift your mindset to seek solutions. When something goes wrong, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What can I do about it?" When faced with an obstacle, do not dwell on the hardship, look for a way forward. Every problem has a solution, but you will never find it if your energy is wasted on complaining, on feeling sorry for yourself, on reliving the struggle over and over again. Your mind is a powerful tool, but it only works in the direction you set it. If you tell yourself that a challenge is too big, that a problem is unsolvable, your mind will believe it. It will close the door to possibilities. But if you tell yourself that there is a way, that you will figure it out, your mind will start working toward answers. It will look for opportunities, for creative solutions, for ways to turn the situation around. This is the difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck. It is not that successful people never face hardship, it is that they refuse to let hardship define them. The way you speak about your life matters. Every word you say reinforces a belief, either one that empowers you or one that weakens you. If you constantly say, "I am struggling," you reinforce struggle. If you constantly say, "I am overwhelmed," you reinforce overwhelm. But if you say, "I am figuring this out," you reinforce resilience. If you say, "I will find a way," you reinforce determination. Your words shape your mindset, and your mindset shapes your actions. You have the power to shift your energy at any moment. You can choose to stop feeding negativity, to stop letting problems take over your mind, to stop giving obstacles more power than they deserve. Instead, you can choose to focus on what is within your control. You can choose to take action, no matter how small. You can choose to believe that every problem has a solution, that every difficulty is temporary, that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. The more you focus on solutions, the more solutions you will find. The more you focus on progress, the more progress you will make. And when you take control of your focus, you take control of your life. There is an undeniable strength in silence. The ability to endure without seeking validation, to struggle without announcing your pain, and to work without the need for constant recognition is a rare and powerful trait. Most people are quick to share their problems, eager to find someone who will listen, sympathize, or offer comfort. But in doing so, they unknowingly give away their power. They make their struggles visible to those who may not truly care, to those who might judge, or worse, to those who could use that vulnerability against them. True strength is found in the ability to handle adversity without broadcasting it. It is in maintaining control over your emotions, your challenges, and your journey, rather than placing them in the hands of others. When you keep your struggles to yourself, you protect your energy. Every time you talk about a problem, you relive it. You reinforce it in your mind, making it feel bigger than it actually is. You allow your emotions to be influenced by external reactions. If someone pities you, you start feeling weaker. If someone doubts you, you begin questioning yourself. But when you remain silent, when you deal with your problems internally, you keep control over your mindset. You do not allow others to shape your perspective or dictate how you should feel. You stay grounded in your own power, relying on yourself rather than seeking reassurance from the outside world. People respect those who handle their struggles with quiet strength. When you complain, when you constantly talk about what is going wrong, you lose credibility. You come across as someone who is focused on problems rather than solutions. But when you move through difficulties without making them public, you create an air of resilience. Others begin to see you as someone who is unshakable, someone who can withstand hardship without crumbling under the weight of it. And that kind of presence commands respect. It makes people view you differently, not as someone who needs to be saved, but as someone who is capable, someone who is in control of their own destiny. There is also a strategic advantage to keeping your struggles to yourself. When people do not know what you are going through, they cannot use it against you. They cannot judge you for your hardships. They cannot spread negativity about your circumstances, and they cannot manipulate your emotions based on your vulnerabilities. The less others know about your struggles, the more unpredictable you become. They see only your actions, your progress, and your strength, not your fears, not the obstacles you are facing behind closed doors. This unpredictability makes you powerful. It allows you to navigate your journey without interference, without unnecessary opinions, without the weight of others' expectations. Growth happens in silence. The strongest transformations take place when no one is watching. When you are working late into the night, pushing through failure, learning from mistakes, these moments shape you more than any external validation ever could. If you constantly seek acknowledgement for your struggles, you rob yourself of the opportunity to develop true resilience. Real strength is not found in the approval of others. It is built in solitude, in perseverance, in the quiet determination to keep moving forward regardless of who is watching. There will always be those who feel the need to share their struggles, to seek validation, to make sure the world knows what they are going through. But the ones who rise, the ones who achieve greatness, the ones who are truly strong, are the ones who do not waste time explaining their pain. They channel that energy into action, into solutions, into becoming better. They understand that silence is not weakness, it is power. And that power is what sets them apart. The world is not waiting for more complaints. It is not in need of more people talking about their struggles, their disappointments, or their difficulties. What the world truly needs is strength. It needs individuals who rise above their challenges, who refuse to be defined by their hardships, and who inspire others through their resilience rather than their suffering. When you constantly talk about your problems, you do not contribute anything valuable. You do not create solutions, you do not bring inspiration, and you do not change your situation. You only reinforce negativity, both in your own mind and in the minds of those around you. But when you choose strength over complaint, when you choose action over words, you become a force of change, not just for yourself, but for everyone who looks up to you. People are naturally drawn to strength. They are inspired by those who endure hardship without letting it break them. They admire individuals who refuse to be victims, who take control of their lives regardless of the difficulties they face. When you show strength, when you keep pushing forward despite adversity, you become an example of what is possible. You become proof that circumstances do not define a person, mindset does. And that is what the world needs more of, individuals who prove that no matter how hard life gets, there is always a way to rise above. Your energy influences more than just yourself. Every time you talk about your problems, you spread that energy to others. You bring the focus to negativity, to struggle, to hardship. And while it may feel comforting in the moment to share your burdens, it does not serve a greater purpose. It does not uplift others. It does not create solutions. It only adds to the collective weight of problems that everyone is already carrying. But when you choose to show strength, when you choose to move forward without seeking sympathy, you contribute something powerful. You bring light instead of darkness. You become a source of hope, showing that challenges can be overcome, that resilience is possible, and that strength is always a choice. There is a difference between those who dwell on their problems and those who overcome them. The ones who constantly talk about their struggles remain stuck in them. They relive their pain over and over again, reinforcing it in their minds and making it harder to move on. But those who focus on solutions, who channel their energy into action instead of words, break free. They transform their struggles into stepping stones rather than roadblocks. They refuse to let hardship define them, and as a result, they grow stronger with every challenge they face. The world does not remember people for their struggles. It remembers them for their triumphs. No one talks about the hardships that successful people endured. They talk about the victories they achieved despite those hardships. Every great leader, every successful individual, every person who has made a lasting impact has faced challenges. But what sets them apart is that they did not let those challenges become their story. Instead, they wrote a different narrative, one of strength, one of perseverance, one of transformation. That is the kind of story that inspires. That is the kind of story that matters. By choosing strength over complaint, you shift from being a passive observer of your life to an active creator of it. You take control instead of waiting for circumstances to change. You become the person who finds a way rather than the person who waits for a way to appear. And in doing so, you do not just change your own life, you inspire others to do the same. The world does not need to hear about your problems. It needs to see your strength. It needs to witness your resilience. It needs more people who refuse to be defeated, who refuse to dwell on what is wrong, and who choose to rise above no matter what. That is the kind of energy that creates real change. That is the kind of presence that leaves a lasting impact. Growth is a personal journey. No one else can experience your struggles the way you do, and no one else can transform them into strength for you. The process of overcoming hardship, of learning from pain, of building resilience, it all happens within you. When you tell people about your problems, you involve them in a process that is meant to be yours alone. You invite their opinions, their judgments, and their influence into something that should be shaping you from the inside out. Growth is not something that happens in the spotlight. It happens in silence, in solitude, in the moments when no one is watching. There is a reason why the most powerful individuals are often the quietest about their struggles. They understand that growth requires internal reflection, not external validation. When you speak too much about your difficulties, you distract yourself from the lessons they are meant to teach. Instead of focusing on what you can learn, you focus on how others react. Instead of building strength, you seek comfort. But true growth is not comfortable. It requires you to face your pain head-on, to sit with it, to process it without needing reassurance from the outside world. It requires you to develop your own understanding of who you are and what you are capable of without being influenced by the perspectives of others. Struggles are not just obstacles, they are teachers. They reveal the areas where you need to improve, the weaknesses you need to strengthen, the patterns you need to break. But these lessons are personal. They are not meant to be analyzed through the lens of other people's opinions. When you keep your struggles to yourself, you allow them to shape you in the way they are meant to. You gain clarity. You develop resilience. You build an unshakable foundation that does not rely on external approval or validation. There is also a certain power in being underestimated. When people do not know what you are going through, they do not see your growth happening. They do not expect you to rise, to overcome, to transform. And when you do, it is on your own terms. You are not proving anything to anyone. You are not seeking recognition. You are simply evolving because that is what life requires of you. This kind of silent growth is the most powerful because it is real. It is not for show. It is not for validation. It is for you. The journey of self-improvement is deeply personal. It is something that cannot be shared in its rawest form because no one else can truly understand what it means to you. Every struggle you face, every challenge you endure is shaping you into a stronger, wiser, more resilient version of yourself. But that transformation only happens if you allow it to. If you get caught up in explaining your pain to others, you risk missing the lesson entirely. You risk becoming dependent on their reactions instead of developing your own inner strength. Some of the greatest growth you will ever experience will happen in silence. It will happen when you choose to face your battles alone, when you process your struggles without needing to announce them, when you learn from pain without turning it into a story for others to interpret. This kind of growth is the most valuable because it is unshakable. It is built on a foundation of true resilience, not external validation. It is the kind of strength that cannot be taken away from you because it was never dependent on anyone else to begin with. It is yours and yours alone.